everyone, and welcome back. I'm the Crusader, and you are joining me here in the How to Train Your Dragon map for part 2 of my Dragonsedge build series. Let's get into it. So, the first thing I did was just fly around. I don't know why, but I spent like 15 to 20 minutes just flying around thinking of what I should do next. I have no idea why, but eventually I settled on the idea of going inside the cliff itself and spawn proofing it so then the animals cannot spawn. So in this map, animals and dragons can only spawn on grass. So me covering the entire inside in stone will stop them from being able to spawn. And what I decided to do after that is just go and finish the rest of the cliff itself. Now while I'm going through and doing this, now is the perfect time to ask that if you are enjoying this video, please consider giving it a like. It lets YouTube know that y'all are enjoying this video, and it helps this video get out to more people as well. I'm currently trying to hit 500 subscribers before September. Now, this is probably a little unreasonable, but it would mean a whole lot, if you'd consider slaying that subscribe button. Thank you all. Now back to your regularly scheduled yapping from the Crusader. Now, if you watched the last video, you'll know that these animals just kept getting in my way. This fish was lucky. He got in the way, but it was after I had gone through and it actually built in that area. Now, I will say, fish later on in the episode are not as lucky. They choose the wrong time to get in my way, and it annoys me so much.
I will find you, and I will kill you.
And here's one of the instances I was talking about right here. There's not one, not two, but 3 fish together right here in this area. And it's so annoying. Die, die, die. I hit one and another shows up. What's going on? Now for a while, I just went around and I just added detail all along the cliff face, both here at this pillar and along the back and the sides as well. And here's what we're working with so far. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and map out the lava streams, or the cooled lava streams. And then again, I have no idea why, but I just spent forever flying around. I have this sped up to 4 times, by the way. So, and I ended up cutting a bunch of it out. I don't know how long I spent flying around there. If I figure it out, I'll put it in text in editing. But for now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna finish working on this section of the cliff here. So, as I was flying around again, I noticed this sheep here. And don't worry, it's not the sheep that we saw inside the cliff. He's still there. He's fine. I checked on him. Don't forget, though, in the comments, don't forget, the challenge right now is to name the sheep that we saw in the last episode. But you have to name it how Toughnut would. Don't forget about that challenge. So after I finished the right side of the cliff, what I did is I went over and started to pretty much do the same thing on the left side, except you make both sides unique. You don't copy and paste them. While I was down there building the lower part of the cliff, I realized that the stairs on the dock didn't make sense. You couldn't really get up them from a boat or from the water, so I had to go back and change those real quick because it was going to bug me if I didn't. And of course, we're being bothered by more fish. But this one, I don't know. And I don't know why, but for some reason, that fish made me really mad. And I guess I decided to take all my frustrations out on this yak that was just chilling there. Now that I've finished both sides of the cliff, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around and just add some details, such as trees, bushes, and some fallen leaves and things like that, to really make the build kind of feel like it's alive, feel like it's a real place. One thing I had fun with while building this project was experimenting with different kinds of trees and different kind of tree builds. So on Dragonsedge, there are several types of trees. There's pine trees, kind of oak looking trees, and as well as like birch trees. And it was a lot of fun to try and come up with unique designs for all of these trees and make them stand out from the regular Minecraft tree and not make them look blocky. Because if they look blocky, then they don't look right. And you want these trees to look like they're straight from How to Train Your Dragon, not from Minecraft. And here are the birch trees I was talking about earlier, and I just love how bright the orange leaves are in this texture pack that they use for this world. These leaves look so much better, in my opinion, than any leaves we have in Minecraft. I'm sorry, Microsoft, Mojang, but these leaves look so much better, and I wish we had a bright orange leaf variant. Like why don't we have all these different kinds of leaves that we can find in the real world to where we can make our builds look like they're in autumn or winter or something. after I finished decorating with the trees and the bushes and things, I built another stone pillar or column. I'm building a lot of these, my goodness. But this one I did not copy at all. So unfortunately, the footage for this one, I believe, was lost. It's not the only footage that is lost in this series, unfortunately. I believe I lost the building of one of the buildings. I believe it was like it was a 3-hour long clip, and it was corrupted for some reason. I think it may have been because of a storm we had. I'm not sure, but that's like that, and a couple bits and pieces here and there are the only things that are corrupted, but that was the main thing, the 3-hour long clip of a building. It was so annoying to realize that that clip was gone, and I tried to save it, but I couldn't do anything with it. But here you see me building a small bridge, and in this picture you can see the bridge is right there, right above Rough Nut and Tough Nut's house, and it looks like it's possibly a way that they get to the clubhouse from, besides the big column that's also there right beside their house. And this platform right here, now that I'm building, is going to be the platform that their house sits on. And eventually I will get to their house. It's going to be one of the last projects I do. And oh my goodness, it's so annoying. But enough about what's going to happen in the future. We're going to start here on the frame of the stables. Now, unfortunately, I was building the stables at an angle, and the stables turned out so bad, I'm not even gonna show you the building process. This is all I'm gonna show you. It's terrible. That's it. That's all you're gonna see from the stables. This is it. This is all. And then you'll see it in the background while I'm building the other buildings in today's episode. But that's all you're getting. That's it. It's so bad, I don't even want to look at it. I thought about just completely removing it from the show or from the episode and just playing it off as if the next version I build of it is the first version. But I can't do that. I cannot do that. That'd be lying, and you can't do that. So yeah, the first version of the stables was not good at all. At all. But what you're seeing here right now is not the stables. In fact, it is the base of the clubhouse. So I didn't think it was called the clubhouse. I thought it was called like the meeting room, not meeting room, something along the lines of meeting room, I guess. But no, it's called the clubhouse. I guess that makes sense for like for what they do in the show. I just didn't think it was called the clubhouse. I thought it would be called something else, like the headquarters or something. Nope, it's the clubhouse. But this thing, the clubhouse, it turns out to be a pretty good-sized build, and I use this to kind of scale all the other buildings that we do from now on. Kind of scale. I don't know if all the other buildings are to scale of this scale once we're done, but I tried to make sure that no house was much bigger than this building right here. So I was trying to figure out how I would add texture to the metal roof here, but then I remembered that the pressure plates were the exact same texture as these blocks right here. It makes sense because they're both iron. Now, I might go back through and break a couple just so the pattern is a little all over the place, I guess. So then there'll be holes and things like that. But for now, I think it looks pretty good how I have it set up. Now, I noticed around the map makers used a lot of dragon heads and shields for decoration, and I didn't know how to get those because they weren't in the creative menu until I started playing around with the /give command. And then I saw these weird aura decorative pieces. And I was like, what are those? So I eventually looked, and boom, there they were, the shields and the dragon heads. So I gave myself a couple of them because I'm going to need those for this build. As you can see, I already used the shields, but the dragon heads are going to go above the doors, as well as there's a little spire that goes out the middle of this, and it has a bunch of dragon heads on top. Now what you see me doing here is I'm trying to find the exact center of the room, so the fireplace, or the fire pit, sorry, will be completely in the center. Unfortunately, the center is 2 blocks wide, which does not help later when I'm trying to put a dragon head that is 1 block wide completely in the center. For all the doors in Dragonsedge, I try to make them all look unique. So for the doors on the clubhouse, what I did is I ended up using the barrels as the door itself. And I think it ended up looking pretty good. So I went around and added these stone buttons as the metal pegs that are holding the door together. Here is the situation that I was talking about earlier with the dragon heads. Now, on one side of the build where you see the deadly natterhead, it is completely centered. Unfortunately, on this side where you see the Gronkle and the monstrous nightmare, it is not completely centered, which is very unfortunate. I even tried to add Toothless's model head up there, but it was bad. No, the dragon heads I added here on the sides looked pretty good, but this one unfortunately is off. But it doesn't look too bad when you look at it from a certain point of view. Now what I'm doing here is I'm going through and changing the support structure a bit because I ended up extending the build by 1 block. Now it's interesting, in the show, the clubhouse is only supported by that 1 beam in the middle, and then you have all this other scaffolding and supporting around the edges and the side going out from that beam. Realistically, I don't think this would hold, but it's Dragonsedge and it's DreamWorks, so they can do whatever they want. I even went around the platform itself and tried to add some texturing, such as holes in the floor and some other things. After I placed that block, this is the clubhouse pretty much complete. Now I do go back later and add some small details and stuff, but that is in a later video. For now, I'm going to work on the top level or portion of the cliff. And in this part of the cliff, I'm going to have some secret tunnels and passages that will lead throughout Dragonsedge. And it's gonna end up being pretty cool. Now, in the show, we do know that there are secret passages and things throughout Dragonsedge that go from the clubhouse. Because in any shot from the clubhouse, we can see one of the tunnels in the background. Now, we don't know exactly where some of these go, however. So this is where I get to decide where these tunnels go and have a little bit of creative liberty with this. And I can't wait to get these together. Now, my idea is to have it look like these tunnels keep going, but they're going to be blocked off with stained glass that's going to look like fog. Now, in order to keep going in these passages, I'm going to add a teleporter to where once you stand on it, or once you trigger it, you're going to get teleported to the next section of these tunnels. Now, it was a bit annoying, but I had to go through and I had to fill all of this in, which took, I want to say, I don't know, I almost want to say it took about 45 minutes to an hour to fill all of this in. I cut out a good chunk of this, and oh my goodness, it shortened the video by so much. I remember looking at the time before cutting this, and it was like an hour and so many minutes, and then I cut it and I looked at the time and it was like 45 minutes or something like that, and I was like, oh my goodness. It was a little bit more than 45 minutes. It was probably like 50 minutes, something like that, maybe 45. I don't remember exactly, but I remember it being a good chunk of the video. And there is the top section of the cliff complete. Now I'm gonna have to go back through and smooth out that top bit and make it look natural. But for now, what we're going to do is we're going to go through and add some detail. Now you can see that the cliff is only 1 block thick, unfortunately. So when you break through, you can see into the secret entrance, or into the tunnels, but that's completely fine. And I also did some texturing on that pillar that you saw there. But for now, this is what we're working with. It's looking pretty good. It's coming along pretty well. Now it's going to start actually coming alive once we start putting more buildings in. Now with all that done, we're going to start on Snotlout's house. So the main thing about Snotlout's house is he has a giant statue of himself holding up his house. Now, the statue I originally had in mind was going to be absolutely huge. It was going to be bigger than the clubhouse. You can see it, how it's coming along right now, and my goodness, it was going to be big. But I eventually realized it was going to be way too big, and I was like, nah, we can't have that. So I went through and I completely demolished it, and I tried to make a smaller version. But the smaller version still ended up being way too big. So I ended up having to make a 1 block version instead. And it leaves a little to be desired, but it at least gets the job done. Now I can probably go back through and make a better version eventually, but for now, the 1 block version will have to do. This one right here is just way too big. So here's the 1 block version I'm starting on now. So we get the belt done, and then we get the top portion done. So these are his arms right here, and this will be his head. So for his hair, I used dark oak signs, and then for his face, I used a regular oak sign. Now I played around with a couple faces to figure out which would be the best one. I'm not really happy with that one. I leave it for now though, just so I can have something there. But I do eventually end up changing it. And I use this oak sign here for the tear or the V in his shirt that he has. I spent a while trying to figure out what would be the best Viking hat for Snotlout, and I tried the sword as the horn for his helmet, but eventually settled on these horns that the map makers made. These ones are for teleportation back to Burke, but they ended up working pretty well for Snotlout's horns on his helmet. Now this is the face I eventually ended up settling with. So if you look at the statue itself, it has a pretty stern face. Now I ended up changing his arms and making them more tan and kind of skin tone to Snotlout. And then I got started on the base of his house. right here what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to mess around with paintings and see if I can find any good ones for the front section of Snotlout's house and for the decoration. Now, I ended up finding this one right here, which I thought was really nice and it worked really well. But it was really weird coming across those red just blobs. Now what I'm doing here is I'm working on trying to figure out how to make Snotlout's S. Now if you've watched the show, you know that this was a big deal of his to have his S anywhere he went. If he left his S, he was not going to stop letting the others hear about it. He was going to talk their ear off the entire trip about it. So I think it ended up looking pretty well. I do go back later and change it a bit, and you'll have to wait and see that. But for now, what I'm doing is I'm going through and I'm going to get the roof of his house done. So the roof of his house looks, or hut, sorry, because they don't call them houses in the show, they call them huts. But the roof of his looks more like it's made out of logs. Here what I'm doing is I'm working on the sculpture or wood carving of Hookfang. So you can see Hookfang's wings in this picture here and his body. So it's going to be a little interesting trying to sculpt it, but I think I'll end up doing a decent job. So right there is what I think is the best version I made of the S. So if you look at Snotlout's S, it is painted red in the middle, but on the ends you can tell that it's just a it's a metal object just made to look like an S. So I went and I added the metal edges to match that. Here what I'm doing is inside of Snotlout's house, I figured he would have a bunch more S's, and especially as the lights. So I went and I added an S-shaped chandelier. Actually, 2 of them, not just one. So most of the dragon riders sleep close to their dragons. I believe all of them except the twins. Barf and Belch seem to spend the most time in the stables when they sleep. So here what I'm doing is, if you watch the movies or the show, you know dragons usually make this ring around them with their fire before they end up laying down. So I went through and I added that just for the extra detail. For Snotlout's sleeping area, what I ended up doing was making a little elevated position to where he could walk up and his bed and all of his treasures and his valuable items would be there. And also they would be a little bit away from Hookfang. So they wouldn't all be set on fire, which is why Snotlout has a water tank right outside his house. Now, unfortunately, we don't ever really see the inside of Snotlout's house. We do, but not a lot of it. We mainly see him sitting in that chair that I made there anytime we go inside of his house. We never see his sleeping quarters or where Hookfang sleeps, so that leaves it up to me. What I'm doing here is I'm just going through and adding some clutter, making it look like it's been lived in. Now, Snotlout is pretty messy, but he can also be organized. So we went and we kind of did a little bit of both. We have chests scattered all around the area, as well as barrels, but we went around and added some treasures and things in specific locations, as well as the second S chandelier. He's obsessed with himself. What I'm doing here is I'm going through and adding some treasures. This one, for example, is the trophy that Dagger gave him. That one is a yak. He's always talking about yaks. This one is a gold bar from the time when he was posing as a rich man with Burke's gold. So once I am done with all the builds in today's episode, I'm going to go through and I'm going to do a flyover and fly through of all of the buildings, so y'all get to see the inside as well as the outside. So this is the water tank that I was talking about earlier that Snotlout has always ready just in case Hookfang sets his house on fire. Now it looks like he has it connected on the inside from some pipes and things. So that is what I tried to mimic right there with the iron bars. I tried to use that beetroot there for the S, but I ended up just putting a sign instead. And this is how Snotlout's house and the clubhouse are looking so far. Now, I had enough of looking at the stables. So I was like, you know what? Forget it. I'm going through, I'm demolishing the stables, and I'm building them again from scratch. This time, not at an angle. Goodbye, sheep. Oh, man. We did get a good name in the last episode for the sheep. Now, I'm gonna give it one more episode for a name, so y'all gotta figure out a name that you think Tough Nut would name a sheep. But that's enough talking about sheep for now. So far, the staples are already looking way better than the first version, though. Once I finished up with the roof, what I did is I went and made the metal doors that the staples have at the front. So I was trying to mess around with these colored blocks and see if any of them would look good as the little decorations they have, but I decided that the armor that the map makers put in would look a lot better than these colored blocks. So on top of the stables, there is a kind of green dragon paint design that they have going on. So in order to pull that off, what I did is I took this green terracotta, I believe, green dyed terracotta, I think. I don't remember the name of it. And I started to make the design for the dragon. So I finished the right side first, and then I just went and copy and pasted it on the left side. Now, I wasn't sure what I should do for the dragon head that is in the front on top of the stables. But while I was looking through Viking ship designs and things like that, I saw this one really nice figurehead that I will leave the video for in the description. It is a really well designed figurehead for Viking ships, and it looks really nice. So in that previous clip, you saw me just working on the support structure for the stables. This right here is going to be the back where the dragons are going to be. Unfortunately, I couldn't build a bunch of these wooden pens. I tried. It took up way too much space. But after I went through and I made the dragon stables, I tried to fit a dragon inside, the biggest one in the map. It could not fit. I didn't know why. It was because of the wooden barrels I had sitting over there. But once I got rid of those wooden barrels, I figured out that the biggest dragon in the map does indeed fit inside the stables. Now, unfortunately, the wings and the tail do go through the wall. So I just went through and I fixed that real quick. There he is looking at me through the wall. So I went through and I added some more of the cliff to kind of fix that. And there we go. This is the stables. It's already looking way better than the first version. unfortunately, that is about all the time we have today. We just about finished the cliff, we made the stables, the clubhouse, and Snotlout's house. While I'm going through and showing you an overview of these builds, I want to remind you that if you are enjoying the video, please consider leaving it a like, and if you don't want to miss out on the next time I upload, please consider slaying that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it. Thanks for watching, guys. Till the next crusade.